Welcome back to the Shacknews Awards, broadcast live from the metaverse. Not really, but figure we're talking about best hardware this time, right? Sorry, I have to put the fabric on my nose up this hole because Steve Jobs is dead. But yeah, we want to talk about the best hardware released this year, and what more iconic hardware was released this year than this Apple Vision Pro headset, the future of spatial computing, right, guys?
What is that?
You're out of order.
This is $3,500 flushed down the toilet, Donovan, is what this is.
Yeah.
And this is not nominated for the best hardware this year. But figured since we're talking hardware, why not talk about the future of spatial computing? Anyway, Here are the nominees. If I can read them through this stupid garbage pass.
I thought you could have like a window open inside them to read.
You want me to log into Google Sheets in this thing? I have to type like this, Greg. It's like pinch.
That's hilarious.
Look at me type.
The future is here.
It's going to take me 4 hours to even type Google into the stupid browser. And by the way, Siri works just as terrible in here. Sorry, I digress. To the nominees for best hardware. If I can read them. Holy crap. PlayStation 5 Pro. Nintendo Sound Clock Alarmo. MetaQuest 3S, which costs what? Like a tenth of the price of this
$1.
The Razer Freya. Is that the chair thing? The force feedback chair thing?
That is the force feedback chair thing.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And then, yes, this year's MacBook Pro, which is still more expensive than this headset if you max it out, but way more useful.
Yeah.
By the way, I can use this as a MacBook display, by the way, you guys. Truly the future. So yeah. I don't know if many of us have... I don't think any of us bought a PS5 Pro. I may be wrong about that. But
no
one here.
No. Yeah. One of our freelancers, Aiden, sent me a message one day, and he's like, no one can say I'm not dedicated to my craft, and he had a picture of the PS5 Pro box, and I was like, hey, fair enough. He says it's fine, it's like, yeah, you can upgrade some games and play them in like an upgraded mode, but he wasn't overly excited about it. Didn't really seem like it was... I think what's missing is that it's not really like a must buy at this point, right? Like we're not seeing any games that it's like, well, you really need a PS5 Pro to play that. Maybe that happens in the future, but I think at this point it's tough to really...
But that's also a problem of this whole Pro strategy that Sony's been doing, is that when you make these halfway through the cycle console updates, you have to provide software that works on your entire platform, right? So they're going to be developing stuff that still runs on PS5. It just runs better on PS5 Pro. So I guess the question will become how much better. I think the problem in our industry is that we have to keep up to date with games. So we've played The Last of Us Part 2 or Spider-Man 2, right? Or Miles Morales, right? Whereas like if you haven't played those games and you're someone who doesn't buy every game when they come out or whatever, this is a good entry point for someone who didn't buy a PS5, right? You can get in something that has a better user experience, better performance, although it doesn't seem like they're still hitting the level of performance they may have originally indicated when they announced the PS5 platform. But yeah, I do think it's... I think
cost
offer will determine if it's ultimately worth it in the future.
I think the big turnoff right now is that if you look at a PS5 and a PS5 Pro and you compare the costs, is like anyone, an adult or a parent, then you have to say, well, why do I need this? Right? And if those reasons just don't exist right now.
Additionally, it doesn't have a disk drive.
I'll be honest, that is not something I care about. But
yeah, but if you don't have access to like high-speed internet and a good data cap, it's going to present perhaps a problem for some families.
Yeah, I know that it can be an issue for some folks, and I know that for some people it's like a sticking point. I think that's less and less and less the case. Personally, like, couldn't care less. Don't want anything to do with physical media. So
yeah, for me, I'm the complete opposite. I don't.
Yeah.
I want to own my product. And
Nah.
if
I'm big
I
on
have
the
it
physical
digitally,
too.
they can just rip it off my console if they don't want me to have it anymore.
Yeah, like what
Mhm.
happened to the PT demo, or what happened to
Yeah.
the eShop on 3DS and Wii U. Like you can't be certain that your digital purchase will be there forever. You even saw that with you can still download the Megaton pack if you already bought it on Steam, but it has been delisted, so there's no Duke Nukem 3D Mega Pack anymore. There's only the anniversary edition. Stuff like that is annoying. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe a year from now, we'll all be like, man, PS5 Pro is really good, but it's I understand why they did the anniversary edition of it. I thought that was cool looking and was good
Very
fan
cool.
service and stuff. But yeah, I don't know who this product's for.
It was just missing, like they really needed to release it with a title that demanded the PS5 Pro. Sound like
Yeah.
a showpiece.
A Bloodborne remake.
There you go.
Yeah, don't
That
get me
would have been-
started.
And Sam wouldn't have a negative word to say.
I
He'd
would
be like,
lose
I
my
hate disk
shit.
drives. Give me that Bloodborne remake right
I'm
now.
just saying, like, they go, hey, Denny, what if I told you Bloodborne remake runs 60 FPS 4K on the PS5 Pro? You're buying that thing. Like, that's not even a
Hey.
question.
So many people would be incredibly angry if they locked a game on the PS4 Pro, a PS5 Pro, and not on the
No.
PS5. They would just, yeah. Is that what
No,
you're
None
saying?
of
but
it,
I'm
none of it's
saying-
optimized for it that way.
That's all I'm
because
saying.
It has to be.
Yeah, it has the optimization. It launches on PS5 also, Greg, because
Okay.
they want to make money. But like that, I think that's it though, Bill. It needed software that was new because
Yeah.
at least with respects to games journalists, nothing they're going to show us outside of like the hard work the Digital Foundry does to show the differences. But like, the average gamer's not going to notice that stuff unless you explain it to them.
And I understand folks who are like, hey, I want it to work on this and I want it to work on that. And console providers are always going to do that. Well, not always, but they should.
Generally.
You know, if you have, we know that the Switch 2, like they've talked about the backwards compatibility, right? People love that. It's important. I'm kind of the outlier here because I want them to make something that runs as good as it possibly can on my beefed up hardware. And I think that there's a case to be made in the opposite direction too, because I forget who mentioned it, but someone said, hey, you know, like it's I think it was you, Asif, that they have to build it so that it also runs on a PS5. So it might run better on a PS5 Pro, but it also has to run on a PS5. I'm always intrigued when they build something that is just designed for that one specific beefed up piece of hardware, because then you can
Yeah.
see what can it really do. And I know that opinion, and I acknowledge it, kind of sucks in some ways because it leaves out people who own the old console, and that's not good either. It's tough balance, but I do think that there are places where you could build something that was just intended for the PS5 Pro, just to like really show how it, if it can, we don't know, but show it like flexing its muscles.
But yeah, to launch I think to launch without a piece of software that like you could really be like, hey, this will drive sales. I thought it was kind of strange. But yeah, it's always been it's not. This seems to be a trend now, and like we've heard it from Microsoft, and people who develop for Microsoft platforms. The Series S is problematic because
Yeah.
it's so much more underpowered than the Series X,
Yeah.
right? So I think Sony is entering themselves into a lesser but similar situation to that. Anyway, you know what was really hot this year, guys? Clocks.
Everyone criticized it, and then they sold out instantly everywhere. That's the best. I love it.
You like to use this word "everyone," Greg. I don't
I
know
know.
if you know what the definition of that is.
General,
but
the
Keep on
general
using that
consensus
word.
was
That's
everyone was
not-
heavily criticizing it on social media platforms. I'll say the general consensus. I guess I guess you can't say
I
it
would
anymore
say
because all
that-
feeds are different now.
Maybe
I
the
didn't say
general
that.
consensus of the vocal minority.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna call everyone a bunch of angry nerds on Twitter, fine. That's an interesting definition of the word everything. But I saw casual fans go crazy over this product. Like my friend's wife was like, "I want to get this," and she never talks about video games ever. So I think that this is one of those moments where Nintendo shows you that they can reach a larger audience than I think people give them credit for. And Ozzy, you're the person who actually reviewed this product and owns it and uses it. I don't know if you want to chime in here about any of the Nintendo magic in the device or all of the.
It's pretty magical in that it reads your movements and it can, and when it tries to wake you up and you decide like, nah, I'm just gonna kind of go back to bed, it will get louder and louder until you get your ass up. But I love all the themes that come in it. I love the hourly chimes are animated and they're themed to a lot of different games. It's a weird product, but I like weird Nintendo, so I'm the kind of person that this was kind of marketed to.
Yeah, and they did another kind of non-Nintendo thing about this. They posted a dev interview, like a very in-depth dev interview about this product.
Surprisingly in depth about a clock.
And like you go on to read that like the people behind the person who built the Joy-Con and the people behind Splatoon came together for this project that had been going on for like over a decade. So this is a project that began while Satoru Iwata was still alive. And anyone who paid close attention to Nintendo in the Wii U era and the Wii era, they were always talking about entering the quality of life health space. And I think sleep health is largely ignored by society. Especially in American culture or Japanese culture where it's work, 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 right? I think it's cool to see Nintendo release a product that's built around making sure you get a good amount of sleep. It tracks the amount of sleep you get, and that you wake up healthy.
It's not a perfect product though, because it's tailored for, and we've discussed this on the Shack Together. It's built for one person.
Yes.
If you share a bed, the readings are going to come out imprecise. Like the motion sensor will get out of whack. Like you can see Bucky behind me over here. There's a reason he's asleep here and not on the bed. He's not a fan of Alarmo, and Alarmo reads his movements more than it does mine, which is probably not what it's designed for.
Yeah, if you have a dog that sleeps in your bed, like even if you're not married, it's still going to detect two beings, and that's going to screw up things. So it's really, I think it's ideally meant for kids who sleep alone in their own room.
It's going to be great for getting your kids up out of bed at like 10 in the morning. It's a fun way to wake them up.
But to that point, it's not priced like something you would buy for a kid. It's $100 for this clock.
No, it's a price. It's something for a parent that wants to wake their kid up.
That's true. But yeah, to Greg's point, it's sold very well. I think surprising people. It's sold out at Nintendo Tokyo twice. It sold out at Nintendo New York. I do think it was interesting though, because this was the first time where Nintendo released a product and it was not available anywhere else at retail at first. It was only available at their channels.
Oh yeah, we talked about this. Yeah.
I think this is a beta test for what they're going to do with the Nintendo Switch pre-orders to prevent scalping, where you have to log into your Switch account, your Switch Online account, to be able to pre-purchase a Switch 2. I think this was a test for that. So I think Nintendo's being very calculated right now, and this was an interesting move by them.
My nephew wants one. I don't know if he knows what it is, but he wants one. He knows it's a clock.
It's cool.
He's the right person for one.
Yeah, it's not a bad. Like, you'd be a pretty rad uncle if you bought your nephew an Alarmo for Christmas, because that's a lot of V-Bucks right there, Greg.
No, there's 4 of them, so I have, and all of them have stupid phones, so they all Google the price of the thing and they all complain if something's more expensive than whatever. But no.
Oh God. I think you're not dropping $400 on Alarmos this Christmas.
I think what the cool thing about seeing that though is, to speak Slumber, is that like it's this Mario IP thing is it's expanding on generations. Like there's a lot of stuff that hasn't survived that. You know what I mean? Like I tried to show my nephew Batman Arkham, not interested. But like the Mario movie like started a whole new generation of Nintendo people. Like even if you've never played a Nintendo game before, you're going home and you're doing something with Mario. You know what I mean?
I think 2 or 3 things happened during this generation that have created a new generation of fans of Nintendo. One, I would say the success of the Zelda franchise, mainly Breath of the Wild, that opened the door to a whole new generation of Nintendo fans. You could say Odyssey to a lesser extent, but also the Mario movie effect, which you mentioned. But I think the one that people forget about the most is Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing was there for people as the lockdown happened in the United States and around the world. And that created a loyal young fan base, Greg, that I don't think people realize. That game sold over 40 million units. Wildly successful for them. So, like, to your point, there's probably never been more Nintendo fans than right now. And which makes stuff like this a good idea. I was like, you know what, Nintendo? Give me a toaster. I'll buy a sound clock toaster to make it, or a sound toaster, whatever you want to call it. Toasto.
Nintoaster.
Nintoaster. There you go. Anyway. I don't know. Anyone else want to chime in on Alarmo? It's weird. It's cool.
It's out
And
there. It's so well. It's,
I don't know.
you know, people like it.
It makes me smile when I look at it because it is like a piece of Satoru Iwata's kookiness. I feel like it's like a remnant of that era of Nintendo, but also harkens back to like all that stuff they're celebrating at their museum these days with like Ultra Hand and like their physical products. It just feels like Nintendo's kind of going back to its roots a little bit. Even if
We get a lot of drip drop updates for Nintendo Music. I wish they do the same with Alarmo. Give me a like Xenoblade theme, F-Zero theme, like more stuff like that. Because right now the themes they have are fine, but you're Nintendo. You got a lot more than that. Come on now.
Is Star Fox on there?
It is not.
That's a huge miss.
Right?
But yeah, like I do like the Breath of the Wild is on there, and they have the Guardian theme that comes on if you hit snooze too many times. Like there are little details in it that I think are really cool. Anyway, we've talked way too much about an alarm clock. And that kind of speaks to how cool it is. No, but it's also just like kind of speaks to how cool the product is, or how kooky it is, or how it sticks out this year at the very least. MetaQuest 3S. I don't think anyone owns this, right? But this is basically us making a call on the specs and the affordability of the product. In a year where Apple thought this was a good idea, and I'm pointing at a Vision Pro right now, that releasing a $3,500 pass-through headset was going to be a viable competitor in the already kind of crowded HMD space, head-mounted displays. Facebook responds by releasing the most affordable MetaQuest ever in the 3S, and they shipped a Batman Arkham game in VR to go alongside it. That's how you do it. In case Apple needs an idea, this thing shipped with next to no first-party software support. There are some environments that you can go to, but outside of that, and there was that dinosaur demo. This thing doesn't even have proof of, and when I say this thing, it's the thing on my face, doesn't even have like proof of concept, interesting demos built by Apple. Whereas I think Facebook has shown a willingness to invest in the content from fees to devs for exclusives, where they almost 100% fund the projects. It just seems like Facebook is doing a better job in this space. Now, I will say, with the caveat that Facebook has lost over $50 billion on their Reality Labs division over the past however many years. So
we have a running joke about it, like every financial quarter.
Yeah, it's okay. How much did they make off of ads, and how much did they lose off of Reality Labs? Those are the two most interesting line items every time. And they keep losing money on Reality Labs, and I don't think that lowering the price on this is going to turn around that trend. But it's good for consumers.
Yep.
And I think that's the most important thing here, is that VR is expensive. Mm-hmm. And the future of spatial computing is absurdly expensive. And it's already a niche. So the only way to reach out to a larger group of people is to bring the cost down and increase the fidelity. So they brought a lot of features over that they saw the Vision Pro do to their Meta Quest OS. So they're working on pass-through pretty intensely over there too. And we didn't mention it because it's not out this year, but they did show off a transparent glasses-based AR device that they are working on that uses projection onto the screen. So, Meta is doing some really good work in this space.
Yeah, it was a smart way to soften the blow as well, for the fact that Batman Arkham Shadow is exclusive to the Quest 3. You can't play it with the 2 or 1, which I know people weren't excited about, but I think them dropping a headset at the same time that's $200 cheaper than the only other device you can play on, I think was a very wise move.
In some cases, you can trade in your Quest 2 for maybe like $100 or something to lessen the blow too. So yeah, I agree, Don, and I think making VR available to more people is a good thing. And look, Facebook. They've done a lot of things I'm not a fan of, but I think Mark Zuckerberg's love of VR, he has fueled him to thumb his nose at investors, because if they were just worried about impressing Wall Street, they would be out of this years ago. So this is clearly something that people internally at Facebook care about. And someone who's been following VR for the entire decade I've been here at Shacknews, they have pushed VR forward more than any company in history. And this is just another example of that. Ozzy, let's talk about this force feedback chair thing from Razer, the Freya.
Razer Freya is Razer asking the question, why do we only have haptic feedback in controllers or even in headsets? Why can't it just be all over? And for that, they made a cushion. And the cushion, the Razer Freya, something I first tried at CES this year, it released nationwide a couple months ago. The idea is it is a whole cushion with 6 motors on it. And for certain, there's only like a few games that like fully support it. And by fully supported, I mean it has focused haptic feedback depending on what happens. And the games that support it is stuff like Final Fantasy 16, Hitman, Frostpunk 2, Hogwarts Legacy. It's not that many, and that's the only reason that it's not as good as it could be. I think once they expand that list of titles, it's great. It works on everything, but like with everything, it's more like a flat kind of haptic feedback. It's more like a massage chair at that point, because I played it on something like Marvel Snap and Hearthstone, and it rumbles more to the music, which is kind of weird, but I enjoyed the massage it gave me. So
I wonder if it's sound frequency based, so like bass or something triggers something. That's interesting, because to your point, if you don't program stuff 1-to-1, it could just get wonky with how it regularly behaves, right?
Yeah, but fortunately, like Razer they have an entire department focused on this. So that list of HD Sensa supported games, that's going to grow a lot more over time. I think this is going to be something that ends up being really cool next year at this time.
Doesn't it seem like it could just be a chair?
It could be a chair, but I think they want it so that you can put it on just your average IKEA office chair. Now, the problem with that is it's pretty, like, you can't just put it on like a low chair. It has to be something high, like what I got right here.
Oh.
But you could feasibly put this cushion on like a budget line competitive gaming chair. Like you get $100 gaming chair, you can put this on it, it works fine. And part of the reason I'm not using it now is because it does have to plug into your PC. And so there's a little bit of a wire issue. You don't want like too many cords hanging around, but yeah. And the only other thing is, of course, it's a Razer product. It means you have to have it connected to Razer Synapse, which is like a whole other thing. I'm not the biggest fan of Synapse, but
I think all those companies have their equivalent of that. There's like Corsair has IQ, Razer has Synapse, and I don't want to say the word bloatware to describe all of them, but some of them don't run very well.
Yeah,
and that can be annoying.
I get a lot of that out of a lot of these proprietary softwares, but I think for what this is, I think this is a really cool product. I think it's gonna be awesome down the road. Right now, even as a functioning massage chair cushion, I think that's pretty great. So I'm really enjoying my time with it. I just think it could have been. I think if it had released at this time next year with a larger slate of titles at launch, I think it would have been like a really cool. Like it would have been a no-brainer for a gift guide. Oh, it's in our gift guide, but like I think it would have been something that you would have wanted to get a friend.
Ozzy, remind me, what's the price of the chair? Just curious.
I'm not sure. It's a cushion.
The cushion. What's the price of the cushion?
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's $299.
Whoa.
It's
a
whole
Razer
product.
Switch.
That's
a
a
whole
chair.
ass Switch. You can buy a Switch for that.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
You can almost buy a MetaQuest 3S.
Nothing.
You can almost
with
get
the
a whole
Razer name
dining
on
room
it is
set for
cheap.
that.
You could buy a 12-pack of eggs for that. Anyway. No, that's that is sticker shock. So that's one of
Yes,
those
it
things,
is.
Ozzy, where like over time it'll become more affordable. And that's why I was like, maybe it should be a chair, because if you get the chair and the force feedback in one, it makes that price a little bit more palatable. Because like a good gamer chair could cost upwards of that. But by itself as a cushion, and like you said, it can't be used on every chair. Also, I'm the worst person to try to market force feedback stuff too. I hate that stuff. My back, just when you said like, it sometimes feels like a back massager. I'm like, that's gonna feel like I'm
No.
getting punched in the
For
back.
those reasons, you're out.
I'm good. But like, I readily admit I'm not the target demo for this. So there's people out there who love force feedback and things. And, we were talking about VR in this category anyway. It's a huge part of VR being immersive. So I could see that chair being cool in like a VR game. Or sorry,
I passed it along to my nephew, and he's using it for his racing games, and he's enjoying it. He loves
Oh
it.
yeah. Oh, that's another good example of how it worked. I was curious, like, it would be funny if like Madden implemented it. And like every time you get sacked as Justin Herbert, you're like, oh my kidney. Anyway, yeah, I want to mention this last nominee, and then we'll get to voting. I'm nominating this year's MacBook Pro. I hadn't bought a Mac since 2015. So the last MacBook I had that really dumb touch bar that replaced the F1 buttons, or the F keys. It had the worst keyboard ever shipped in a laptop. That butterfly key mechanic that would break, like they broke. So I went from, in my opinion, one of the worst MacBooks ever to now one of the best, where I'm running an M4 processor in it or whatever, M4 Max, which this is the first time I've bought a Mac with an ARM chip in it, the whatever the M series chips that they're doing. I'm very impressed with the battery life of the device, where I get like full day battery life on it, which that was never the case with an Intel based MacBook. And most importantly to me, I'm using Adobe Premiere on it, and it has cut my exporting time by 66%, which is a huge, meaningful change. But to be fair, that my workstation is like a 2080 Ti, and I'm using an M4 processor. But Premiere, the Adobe Creative Suite, has been optimized for these ARM chips on the Macs. It runs extremely well, and I prefer Mac OS to Windows 11. So that's more of a software judgment than anything, but that's kind of how Apple works. You
To
buy
this
the
day-
hardware, you can experience the software.
To this day, I miss the pressing the space bar and able to preview something. I miss that so much. It's the one feature I'll never get why they don't implement it in Windows. I miss that so much about.
The other thing that Mac nails that Windows has tried to copy but still hasn't really gotten is workspaces, Greg. I love the organizational abilities in Mac OS for workspaces. And now that I can, most of what I do from the creative side here at Shacknews, other than write, is producing video. And the reason I stopped using Mac, Greg, in the 2015 area was you remember how slow that laptop was for
Adobe and them
exporting
did not get
video.
along.
Yeah. Adobe and Mac, they were hating each other at the time, but now I feel like that relationship has thawed,
Mhm.
and Premiere runs extremely well on the MacBook. I don't know if that's worthy of winning this category, but I think it's worthy of a nomination at the very least. But it's also because this thing is not being nominated, the thing on my head, at all. But you got some love, Apple. I can use this as a display for that MacBook, which is kind of neat. But yeah. So this is the nominees. What do you guys say? You guys want to vote?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys. It's really hard to read in this thing.
I think you can take it off now.
No.
Sync it to your MacBook.
No. I will not take it off now, Ozzy. Okay. I'm going to make it through this whole deliberation wearing this thing, and then as fast as humanly possible, I'll take it off my face. Okay. Let's see. Who wants to start this? I'm going to start with David.
I got a new MacBook Pro M3 last year, and I really like it. And I've liked you talked to me about the M4 before the new MacBook, so I think I'll go that.
Look, it's a great piece of hardware, man. It really is.
Mhm.
And like I said, Apple products are a package of both software and hardware. And
Yeah.
I know, David, you use like Word. You have Office 365 still,
Yeah.
so you're using that on a Mac,
Yeah.
and it works perfectly fine for your workflow.
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing, is that like you're able to switch from Windows to that device. You didn't have to compromise anything. You didn't have to leave platforms you're already using. I think that's what makes Mac better in 2024 and 23 than it had been in the past.
Yeah.
Donovan.
I will go with the MacBook Pro.
Danny.
I'm leaning towards showing the MetaQuest some love.
Mm-hmm.
They had some smart strategy, and actually, if if I'm in the market for one, I probably would have leaned in this time after with the way things went. So I'll go with that.
It's also the one that like I think is actually a viable Christmas present this year. Like people can buy that and not feel like, man, I just got gypped. I will say that like Apple prices on stuff like memory upgrades and SSD upgrades are absurd. So to fully max out the 16-inch MacBook Pro this year costs about $8,000, which is way more expensive than you would spend on a PC with similar specs. Greg.
We went to Santa Rosa when my family was in town, and we demoed. My nephew, Nicole, and I, everyone demoed the MetaQuest. They had a demo station at Best Buy, so we did it, and it was really cool. I really thought it was a cool thing, and it made me want one, which is the first time in a while. They've made a lot of improvements. I'm going to say MetaQuest.
Greg, you tend to get sick from bad VR.
This is true.
Were you comfortable? Were you comfortable in there?
I was comfortable, but like then again, like I wasn't focused on just the gaming aspect. Like there's other aspects to the headset.
There's like
the
pass through and
the pass
AR
through the
stuff.
second screen thing. And he's like, you can stream your games over Wi-Fi, and you're like Xbox if you want. Like he was really good salesman. Good sales pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how good that would play out. I'd have to try it in my house, but
What
it's all like in
store?
one. Best Buy, I think.
What store? Oh, okay, yeah. They have a pretty sizable like stand for VR there now.
We were going
just at
during
a
like
Best
the
Buy.
holidays, so people they're trying to sell it for the holiday and stuff. So
But like they kind of have like pop-up stores within Best Buy now. So there's like the Apple part. There's
oh yeah,
like
the spirit
Samsung
version
part.
of like retail stores, that come out in the season. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they have some of those still. TJ.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go with Alarmo. A lot of this other stuff that we have in the category this year, it's like some of it is better versions of things that's come, and some of it is worse versions of things that have already come.
Some of
But
it's
Alarmo-
cheaper. Yeah.
But Alarmo is interesting and unique. I like the idea of an IP using smart clock, and I would actually like to see more of it.
Yep.
Like and the idea of one that can improve with more stuff as you like, if the company wants to do that with it. I think it's a good idea. I think I want to see more of it, and I hope they continue to develop these things.
Yeah, I want more random things that I can log into with Nintendo Switch Online Nintendo. So if you want to keep making weird things, I'll keep buying it. Even though I haven't opened the box on it, it's just sitting in the box still. Ozzy, you reviewed Alarmo, had nice things to say, but you're also a realist about it.
I'm a realist about Alarmo. I'm a realist about Freya. I do like the refinement, and I'm somebody that gets VR sick, but I do like the refinements that MetaQuest 3S has made. So I'm gonna vote for the MetaQuest.
That makes sense. You also get sick from VR, though, right?
I do, yes.
I would be interested to hear, like,
But I'm almost willing to put myself through it for Batman Arkham Shadow.
Yeah, for sure. You would have thrown up if you were wearing this the entire deliberations, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, just curious.
That's why I told you I'm like, take it off.
Yeah, I'm going through it right now. I don't get it. They gave us 4K visuals in here, like some of the best screens ever in a VR headset, and then they put 1080p pass-through cameras on it. Like, why? Why Tim Cook? Anyway, I digress. Bill.
I'm voting for clocks because I would I just think it'd be super cool if a clock won an award at Shacknews.
Yeah.
The year of
And
the
I'm
clock.
not a big VR guy, you know.
No, I know. And honestly, if you were into VR, you would get like a Valve Index, right? You would get like a robust PC experience as opposed to like a low budget standalone.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I know you.
Yeah,
I know
but
you. You would get this room scale awesome version of VR. And
that
it would
sounds like
be-
something that I would do. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Like knowing you like high fidelity stuff. MetaQuest 3S, no offense to it, it is a lower priced budget version of the MetaQuest 3, but it has features in it that I think are elevating it. So it deserves to be voted for and nominated here. Sam.
I can trust that some of these companies will release a new product in the same line of products every year or every couple of years. But Nintendo with their Alarmo, that is a very rare feat, and I have to give props where props are due. Put me down for Alarmo.
Okay. Steve, host of the Steve Tendo Show. I don't know if I see any clocks in that room you're in. I assume you have a clock.
I have an alarm clock. I am going with Alarmo. I would have one if it was cheaper, but I am gonna go with Alarmo. That's my pick.
Okay. Like, what an insane category we have here where I'm comparing an alarm clock to a laptop and a force feedback backrest pad and a VR headset. But that's kind of what hardware is right now in this industry, in tech and in gaming. But I have a soft spot for Nintendo weirdness, and Alarmo is everything that makes Nintendo weird wrapped up into one product. So I will vote for Alarmo. Which means with 2 votes to 3 votes, Alarmo has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes. Alarmo wins. Hey, Tim Cook, next time you want to piss away $3,500 or however many billion on a headset, just remember that Nintendo outsold your stupid headset with a clock. A great clock at that. A sound clock, right? So congratulations to Nintendo Sound Clock Alarmo. Please add F-Zero to this. You are our best hardware of the year 2024. And I can take the stupid headset off now.
This is Nintendo Sound Clock Alarmo, an interactive alarm clock that's out of the ordinary. Let's see what it's like to wake up with Alarmo.
Wake up! It's time to leave dreamland!